Four Air Force airmen set out on a winter hike in Wichita Mountains of Oklahoma on February 15th, 1998. It was supposed to be simple: a few quiet hours outside, a familiar trail, a plan to return before dark. But they never came back. Weeks later, searchers would discover three bodies on a remote ridge far from the main pass. And what investigators found at that scene didn't resemble a normal act of violence. It looked arranged, intentional, almost ritualistic. One of the men appeared to be looking directly at something behind the camera just minutes before the attack began, and the fourth airman, confirmed to be with them that day, never to be found at all. No trail, no evidence, no explanation. This is called Trail, where we follow the evidence until the truth disappears. Welcome to Cold Trail. This show moves slowly on purpose because the real investigations are slow. Real grief is slow. The truth, when it appears at all, usually arrives quietly. Here we take some time to sit with the details, to understand the people involved, and to examine the moments where certainty fades into silence. Tonight's case has lingered for decades, not because of what's known, because of what isn't. A disappearance without footsteps, a crime scene without motive, a photograph that may have been captured, and the final seconds before everything changed, and a question no investigation has ever answered. Part 1: The Mountains and the Morning. The Wichita Mountains in the winter do not feel dramatic at first glance. They aren't the tallest peaks. They aren't buried deep in snow. They don't look especially dangerous. Instead, they feel open. Rolling stone ridges, dry grass whispers in the wind, long stretches of quiet where human sound disappears quickly. It's the kind of landscape that invites reflection, a place people go to clear their thoughts, escape routine for a few hours. For four young airmen stationed nearby, that February morning felt like ordinary. Time off, fresh air, conversations about plans, family, or the future. Nothing about the decision to hike would have seemed risky. They signed out together, packed lightly, brought a camera, the universal signal of a day that meant to be remembered. And sometime after they left, the normal rhythm of the day quietly broke apart. Part 2: When normal becomes worrying. At first, their absence didn't really cause an alarm. Hikes run late, cars break down, people lose track of time. But as the evening became night and the night became morning, concern slowly replaced patience. Calls were remade, check-ins attempted, plans shifted from waiting to searching. Search and rescue efforts often begin with optimism. Most missing hikers are found, cold, tired, maybe injured, but they're alive. That expectation hangs quietly in the air during the early hours. But days pass and the optimism thins. Search grids widen, voices lower, hope becomes careful. Because experienced rescuers know when people are found alive, it often and usually happens early. After that, every hour changes, the kind of answer you expect. Part 3: The Discovery. Weeks into search, I'm talking weeks, on a ridge far from the main trails, any trails, someone finally saw what no one wanted to find. Three bodies, still and close together. Even before investigators approached, something felt wrong. Not the chaos of the accident, not scattered violence, but there was order. Spacing, positioning, stillness that felt arranged rather than fallen. And once the scene came into focus, the search for missing hikers became something else entirely. A homicide investigation without witnesses, without motive, without a clear story of what happened on that ridge that night. Only questions that quietly, certainly, that whatever occurred here had taken its time. Part 4, Reading the Scene. Investigators treat scenes like conversations. Every position, every object, every absence speaks. The first airman's placement against the boulder suggested intention, movement after death, not during struggle. There was carved symbols, unrecognized, untranslated, not even from our language. Near him was the second airman. He was in a kneeling position, deepened in the sense of ceremony. Like he was praying to something, maybe, or someone. Still unanswered. But then there's the creepiest of them all, the third airman. Lying there, face towards the sky, almost peaceful. Looks untouched almost. Until they saw the eyes, removed from his head, replaced with smooth black obsidian stones, formed by nature long before this day. It was a gesture that felt less like concealment and more like a statement. This wasn't rage, this wasn't panic. Someone had taken their time, and patience is far more difficult to explain than violence. Part 5, The Photograph. Inside a backpack on scene, investigators found a camera with a single remaining image. 3 men smiling at the lens, relaxed and unaware. The ordinary photo, taken thousands of times on any ordinary hike, except for one detail. One of them wasn't looking at the camera. His attention drifted beyond the frame, towards something unseen. Analysts later studied shadows, angles, and sunlight. Their estimate: less than 10 minutes between the photo and the killings, which means whatever drew his attention was already there, watching and waiting, or even approaching, turning a simple photograph into a moment suspended on the edge of disappearance. Before we continue, let's pause for just a moment, because if you're anything like me, long true crime deep dives tend to come to very specific side effects. You forget to eat and somehow crave something sweet. And at the same time, that's why today's sponsor is a little different. Protein boba is exactly what it sounds like, a drink that feels exactly like a treat. It is packed with protein instead of sugar and regret. So you get the comfort of boba without the crash halfway through an episode about a mysterious disappearance in the mountains. And honestly, I'm just waiting for the day someone invents a household robot that quietly does all your chores. But then in that moment, you get too comfortable and it politely escorts you to a treadmill like a very calm, slightly judgmental fitness coach. Until that mildly terrifying future arrives, Protein Boba is a much safer solution. You can check the link in the description to learn more. Alright, let's get back to the trail. Part 6, The Missing Fourth. Records confirmed the photograph suggested that there had been a fourth airman on the hike. Search efforts expanded again. Wider grids, longer hours. Hope stretched thin across the empty land, but nothing appeared. No footprints leading the ridge, no discarded gear, no sign of escape, just absence. And the absence is one of the hardest things for investigators to face, because without a body, there is no timeline, and without a timeline, there is no story. Without a story, there is no ending. Only possibility. Did he flee? Was he taken? Was he responsible? Or another victim never discovered? Each question opens into silence, and this is where the trail truly gets cold. Part 7, The Witness Idea. Over time, discussions about the case return again and again to one figure, the airman in the photograph looking beyond the camera. Someone began calling him the witness. And the removal of his eyes has been interpreted by some as symbolism or a punishment for seeing something he maybe shouldn't have. There's no proof of this, only interpretation, but an unsolved case, meaning only often grows where evidence cannot. Final reflection. Nearly 3 decades later, the carved symbols have still remained undeciphered. The obsidian stones have been naturally found in Oklahoma, and the fourth airman has never been located still to this day. All that truly remains is the single photograph taken 10 minutes before everything ended. And one question still echoing through the Wichita mountains. What did he see in those final seconds? You have been listening to Cold Trail. If you have a theory, share it below, because sometimes the only way the truth survives is if the people keep searching. If this episode meant something to you, you can follow or subscribe to walk the nerd trail with me. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you on the next Cold Trail.